Wildfires are threatening early as California faces one of the driest years on record. A look at what may be the start of a hot, fiery season. The world's largest laser at Lawrence Livermore Lab still hasn't reached its goal of creating a fusion reaction. Now, after billions of dollars and missed deadlines, the program is making changes. And what's in your next meal? KQED Science examines the pros and cons of genetically engineered foods.
With genetic engineering, it's just moving very small parts of that genetic information and pulling it out in a very precise way and then pasting it back into another plant.
Plus, an interview with Ted Griggs of Comcast Sportsnet about the evolving climate for gay athletes. Coming up next. Good evening, I'm Scott Schaefer. Welcome to This Week in Northern California. Joining me on our news panel tonight are Amy Standen, KQED science reporter, and Paul Rogers, environmental reporter for the San Jose Mercury News. Well, this week, the final snowpack measurement in the Sierra confirmed what we already knew. This has been a very dry year. Paul Rogers, it's also been a week where we've seen an early start to the fire season from Sonoma all the way down to Southern California. I assume those things are related.
They are indeed. Wet wood does not burn, and we've got a lot of dry vegetation out there right now. The snowpack on May 1st, the Sierra Nevada snowpack was 17% of normal. It's for this time of year, that's the lowest that it's been since 1977. And as a result, we're seeing conditions all over the state that are more similar to conditions that we see later in the summer, usually August type conditions. So we've got 5 or 6 pretty good sized wildfires burning in California right now. The biggest is in Ventura County near Camarillo. Today it went from 10,000 to 18,000 acres. Luckily, it hasn't really burned down many homes. I think it's damaged 15 homes. But there's 1,000 firefighters down there. It's very windy. They only have it 20% contained. So a lot of fire scientists are saying we're going to see a long, hot summer with a lot of fires.
And yet, as a season, not a year, the year beginning in January, but as a season, it wasn't particularly dry, right? It just came all early.
This is one of the most bizarre winters that any hydrologists have ever seen in California. Consider this. From January 1st to April, the end of April, was the least amount of rainfall recorded in San Francisco back to 1849. Which is the longest climate record of any city in California. It's the driest since we began records. And also, as I said, the snowpack's only 17% of normal. It has not rained since January or snowed hardly at all anywhere in the state. But in November and December, it rained and snowed at twice the normal rate. So we built up a lot of water in the bank. And as a result, no one's calling it a drought yet. There are no water restrictions at any of the 3 major water districts in the Bay Area, East Bay Mud, San Francisco PUC, or the Santa Clara Valley Water District. None of them have summer restrictions. You know, most of the large reservoirs in the state are at 95 to 100% of their normal capacity right now. So what it means is there's plenty of water for this summer. We're okay, but in terms of fire, everything's really dry.
And is the state preparing in some particular way for this dry season? And the calls saying this is going to be could be a very hot, fiery year.
Yeah, you know, they've opened fire stations earlier and assigned more people and that kind of thing. They're expecting it. And you know, a lot of fire seasons, it's partially dependent on the climate. It's also partially dependent on luck. You know, some of the bad years we've had a lot of dry lightning strikes or people throw a cigarette out at the wrong time. So if we keep our fingers crossed, maybe we'll be lucky enough to have a normal year.
And there have been some changes, right, to how fires are fought here in the state. I remember hearing that we've dropped from 5 firefighters per truck to 4. Are we hearing repercussions from those changes at all, or are there complaints?
Not yet. I mean, you know, it's interesting because Governor Schwarzenegger beefed up a lot of the state's firefighting capacity when he first came in, and then a lot of that has been cut back with the huge budget deficits that the state ran. The biggest political thing with fire in California right now is this fire fee. Jerry Brown signed a bill in 2011 that charged every rural homeowner $150 a year to pay for more firefighting equipment. A lot of the rural homeowners are not particularly excited about paying more taxes. They have fought it, and the Howard Jarvis and California Taxpayers Association have really opposed it, and they're filing lawsuits. So that may be overturned.
So, Paul, is there a dispute about whether or not this is due to climate change? I mean, is this an example, another example of climate change?
It's a really good question, and I don't think scientists are willing to say that this year's very dry spring is a direct result of climate change, but these are the kind of conditions that we're going to be seeing a lot more of more frequently. You know, what's caused this meteorologically is there's been a high pressure zone that built up over the west coast starting basically after New Year's, and it acts like a wall. And all the storms that would normally come in and soak California from Alaska and the Pacific, they're hitting this wall, they're going up into Canada, and then dropping down into Colorado and the Midwest. I was in Colorado last weekend. It snowed last week in Colorado. The rivers in the Midwest are all at flood stage. They have been getting our rain. And, you know, in terms of climate, already we're seeing, you know, the 10 hottest years ever recorded in the world back to 1880 have all occurred in the last 15 years. Wildfires, the numbers overall in the West are going up. Glaciers are melting. You know, we just passed 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is the highest level in 4 million years. Climate change is real, it's baked in, and we have to deal with it. But we're not quite willing to say each year to year is directly a result.
So just quickly, this could be the new normal?
It could be, indeed. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, and hope for no lightning strikes or fewer lightning strikes.
And don't throw cigarettes out of windows, please, not this year.
Yeah, all right, Paul, thanks very much. Well, a very different kind of heat is generated at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, home to the world's largest laser. Scientists have been trying to create a fusion reaction in the lab in hopes of developing a nearly unlimited supply of clean energy. But after 14 years and over $5 billion, there's a shakeup in the management. And Amy Standen, let me just ask you, why is what they're trying to do there so hard to achieve?
Well, nuclear fusion, which is what they're trying to do, is one of these sort of holy grails of science. I mean, this is something generations of physicists have tried and failed to do. What they're doing, I mean, from a science perspective, this is an incredibly cool operation, NIF, the National Ignition Facility. They are directing 192 lasers. So collectively, this is the world's largest laser at a single capsule the size of literally one peppercorn. I love that. And the idea is that if you can do this right, for one fraction of a second, you would create such heat and such pressure on this capsule that hydrogen, this is a capsule full of hydrogen, the hydrogen atoms would fuse together. This is nuclear fusion, not to be confused with nuclear fission, which happens at nuclear power plants every day. But this is a very difficult thing to do.
What makes it so difficult?
The hardest thing is getting perfect symmetry. And in order, so what they want is for this capsule, which is again this tiny, tiny thing, to shrink from to 1/60th of its size. So that's like if you took a basketball and shrunk it to the size of a single pea. But in order to do that, you need all the lasers to hit it at exactly the same power, right? And what keeps happening instead of this sort of symmetrical collapse is the thing, if you picture like somebody grabbing a water balloon, right? You get this sort of lopsided, you know, thing. And that is not, inside there is not quite enough energy and not quite enough heat to force those atoms to fuse.
And so there was this shakeup. I mean, is it because somebody screwed up in management, or is it, you know, when they don't meet their goal, somebody's head has to roll?
Well, what NIF is saying is that, what the management there is saying is that they planned this all along. This is a transition of power that has always been in the works. Ed Moses, who was for 7 years the director of this operation, is half of his job description he still has. He's running the science part of the operation, so they certainly aren't calling it a shakeup. But certainly there's been a lot of pressure and a lot of blowback really to NIF as a result of not meeting their goal. They said they would have achieved this by September 2012. That deadline came and went, and there are some angry people in Washington, frankly.
So they've spent $5 billion telling us they were going to create a new clean source of energy, unlike nuclear fission, like you mentioned, where we're cracking the atom in half. Here we're fusing atoms together. It didn't work. So what are they going to do with $5 million worth of gear sitting over there in the East Bay instead of trying to find a new clean energy source.
Sure. Well, to back up a little bit, if I can explain the clean energy part of it, because that's pretty exciting. I mean, if they could do this, that single moment, you would be creating more energy than you put into it. And that is the promise of fusion as an energy source. In theory, if you could scale this thing up, you would have power plants that could produce endless energy, runs on water, clean energy, no nuclear waste. Again, this is sort of the holy grail thing there. But in a way, that has never been the goal of NIF. NIF is run by the National Nuclear Security Administration because it is considered a way to test our nuclear weapons arsenal without actually exploding bombs. We have a comprehensive test ban treaty. It's no longer possible to actually explode nuclear weapons. So the question is, how do we know that our arsenal still works? And so NIF is supposed to be a way to test that.
We're not the only ones in the fusion game. China's into it, the European Union. So are we losing the race? I mean, are they doing a better job? Are they closer than we are?
Well, their projects are not as far along as ours is, as NIF is. They're using different technology. The project in France uses magnets rather than lasers to, again, create this fusion of atoms. You know, some people are now saying the lasers don't work, the magnets were a better idea, but it's too soon to say. So
in the end, we're going to use this gear more toward making sure that our nuclear arsenal works and less toward the fusion energy. Are they going to do any fusion energy research there?
They will still be doing some of their fusion energy research, but they're dialing that back. And as a reporter, what's been kind of interesting watching this is this was always billed as sort of a clean energy project. That was the first thing you heard when you went down to NIF. You know, this is about clean energy. And now what we're hearing is, well, that was always sort of, you know, sort of in the background. This was about our stockpile stewardship. So that part of the science will still be moving along. And we're seeing this build as sort of a basic science project.
And let's not forget that the Star Trek sequel, which comes out
going to be filmed at NIF.
There.
Yes,
So the
your
Trekkies wouldn't
let
us get away
so we
with
got
it.
our tax money well spent.
Yes, exactly.
There we go. All right, Amy, thanks so much. Well, a different kind of science story now. California Senator Barbara Boxer was in Emeryville yesterday, stumping for new legislation. She wants the FDA to require that genetically engineered foods be labeled.
It's pretty simple. We deserve the right to know what's in the foods that we eat. And parents certainly have a right to know what they're feeding their children, because their children are the most vulnerable.
But what exactly are genetically engineered crops, and what are some of the pros and cons? KQED Science senior editor Andrea Kissick narrates this report.
We all have a right to know if our food is GMO.
Hi, are you voting yes on Proposition 37?
Despite the defeat of Proposition 37, a majority of Bay Area voters supported the measure, and many are still leading the charge. West Marin organic dairy farmer Albert Strauss was a spokesperson for Prop 37, and he supports a similar initiative that Washington State will vote on this November.
There are solutions out there that don't need genetic modification, and I don't feel it's natural. I don't feel it's we know enough about it, and yeah, I'm basically against it.
But as the political battles continue, biologists are using genetic engineering as one more tool to improve crops. Engineering allows them to change crops in more precise ways than conventional plant breeding.
Classical breeding basically involves taking the female eggs from one plant and bringing them together with the male parts of another plant. And then all that genetic information gets mixed up. With genetic engineering, it's just moving very small parts of that genetic information and pulling it out in a very precise way and then pasting it back into another plant.
At the University of California, Berkeley, biologist Peggy Lameau is genetically engineering a cereal called sorghum. 300 million people in Africa eat sorghum porridge every day, and often little else.
And so what you want to do is make whatever it is that they eat, sorghum in this case, a complete nutritional package.
But sorghum is difficult to digest. So with initial funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Lameau is tweaking a gene in sorghum seed so that it produces 20 times more of a protein that makes the plant more digestible.
When we're ready to genetically engineer sorghum, we will open up the seed and we will pluck out that very tiny little immature embryo.
A member of Lameau's team mixes a group of embryos with a liquid containing a type of soil bacterium that transports the tweaked sorghum gene into the embryo. The process is similar for other crops.
Over a period of time, you select only those cells that got that genetic information, and it grows up as an amorphous mass. It sort of looks like a bunch of grits on a plate. And then, miraculously, using plant hormones, you can cue that mass of cells to say, remember, you're a plant. And it goes, oh yeah. It grows up, and every cell in that plant now will have that piece of genetic information that you put into it.
In the mid-1990s, the Missouri-based seed company Monsanto was the first to sell genetically engineered seeds. Monsanto genetically engineered one category of crops to fend off agricultural pests. They designed a second category of engineered crops that could resist their Roundup herbicide. The idea was to kill the weeds but not the crops when Roundup was sprayed. With these new Roundup-ready soybeans and other crops, farmers could more easily use Roundup herbicide, which was cheaper and less toxic than other herbicides. Today, about 90% of the sugar beets, cotton, corn, and soybeans grown in the United States are genetically engineered. But organic farmers who use no synthetic pesticides oppose genetically engineered crops that encourage spraying.
Pesticides, herbicides are not sustainable. They're not healthy for land, and they're not healthy for people and cows.
Organic farmers like Strauss don't use genetically engineered seeds or ingredients. So if you're not buying organic, what genetically engineered foods might you find at the supermarket? Some soybeans, corn, and sugar beets end up in snack foods, soda, and cereals. A little yellow crookneck squash and zucchini, some varieties of Hawaiian papayas, and some sweet corn are genetically engineered to resist pests. And 20 years ago, scientists also engineered a tomato, this time to satisfy the consumer's palate. The Flavor Saver was created in Davis by a biotech company called Calgene. The goal was a tasty tomato that would remain firm for transportation.
So if they would stay firmer on the vine, then you could let them start to ripen on their own, and they would start to get all the tomato flavors that you would get in your backyard.
The tomato was labeled and popular, but it wouldn't stay firm on the vine, and the venture was short-lived. The tomato was important because it was the first genetically engineered food to be taken to the FDA for approval.
What the company wanted to show was that the tomato was safe. That was the bottom line. Oftentimes, using this technology, a dozen genes or half a dozen genes will be inserted at various places in the tomato genome or any plant genome. So the potential there was that the gene could land in a tomato gene and disrupt it, thereby mutating it.
Genetic alterations could, for example, lead to a spike in unwanted plant chemicals that could cause health problems. So biologists look in each plant to see if any genes were disrupted.
If anything looks odd or different or looks like it might have an issue, then we don't use those plants. So we choose those that we're confident that they're not going to cause changes to the food quality or the food safety.
Lameau writes and gives talks for the University of California. She doesn't take any money from biotech companies for this outreach work.
I have personally gone through the safety studies that are available to look at on the crops that are out there now. And my conclusion was, from looking at those, that I did not see any indication that there were health safety issues associated in a specific way with any genetically engineered food or crop that's out there now.
The World Health Organization and the U.S. National Academies have stated that the genetically engineered foods available today are safe to eat. Despite assurances, activists are pushing for labeling laws at state legislatures and ballot boxes. Retailers like Whole Foods have said they plan to start labeling GE foods. And Monsanto has signaled that it might be willing to talk about a labeling standard.
Well, I think it's in the best interest of the industry itself, actually, to label. If you have nothing to hide, go ahead and label. People want to know go ahead and tell them.
Next week, a half-hour documentary dives deeper into the topic. Tune into Next Meal, Engineering Food, on Wednesday, May 8th at 7:30, right here on KQED 9. Well, NBA player and former Stanford basketball star Jason Collins shook up the sports world this week when he came out as gay. Many hailed him as the first active pro player to do so, but that distinction might belong to Bay Area athlete Glenn Burke, an all-round sports star from Berkeley. He went on to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Oakland A's in the 1970s, but his open sexual orientation may have derailed his Major League Baseball career. Earlier, I talked with Ted Griggs, president of Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area, who produced a documentary about Glenn Burke's story. Ted Griggs, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, Glenn Burke was, of course, arguably the first openly gay player on a major league team. And I'm wondering, when you compare his life and times with what Jason Collins went through this week, and we'll see what he goes through from here on out, but what do you see when you compare those two things?
I think it's completely different. I mean, I think one of the great things about America actually is we don't notice change. It's sort of like either erosion or your hair growing or something like that. But, you know, Glenn was playing in a time in the 70s where we thought we were open and it was peace, love, and freedom, but there was a lot of closed minds and closed ideas and ideals back then. So I think for him, while he was accepted by his teammates, which is sort of a precursor of what we're seeing with Jason Collins, I think the public in general, the old guard of baseball and basketball are two completely different sports in terms of acceptance, in terms of the team concept. I think they're very different.
Why do you say that?
Well, baseball, it's a game of 25 guys. It's a game of sacrifice. It's a game where one person doesn't necessarily make a huge difference. Basketball, you, me, and two other guys and Shaquille O'Neal could make the final eight in the NCAA tournament. One person makes such a big difference in basketball.
And so why does that make a difference for someone coming out?
Because I think ultimately, you know, and we'll talk about it a little later, if you can play, you can play. And in basketball, more than anything else, if you can play, you can make a real difference, not just to wins and losses, but to people's pocketbooks.
Coming back to Glenn Burke, he was a good player, might have been a really good player, but he didn't exactly come out, but people knew he was gay. He didn't try to hide it. How did that affect his career with the Dodgers?
Well, I think on one hand, it didn't affect him as much as we'd all think with his teammates. Most of his teammates knew that he was gay. Most of his teammates accepted him for what he was and actually loved him. In our documentary, they talk about guys crying at their lockers when Glenn was traded.
He was a big personality.
Big personality, a real team guy that brought everybody together, and they respected him. So I think that was one part of the equation. Then you had the front office, Al Campanis, who later got into a lot of trouble on Nightline, and Tommy
for
Lasorda,
racial comments.
For racial comments, and Tommy Lasorda, who was struggling with his own son's sexuality, who was also a friend of Glenn Burke's, and that was an issue as well, which led to Glenn's demise.
Well, let's watch a short clip from Out, the Glenn Burke story. We'll come back and talk.
Glenn Burke playing center field tonight. His first World Series appearance. He takes the first pitch in the World Series from Don Gullett for ball one.
He was blackballed out of the game because of his sexual preference.
Everyone's career ends, but to do it because you don't feel like you belong there when you've proven that you do is damaging.
So here's a guy that was fighting not just the opposing pitcher that was trying to get him out. He was fighting the unknown.
And Ted, of course, Glenn Burke died tragically at the age of 42. He was broke. He was addicted to drugs, died of HIV, AIDS. Fair to say that Jason Collins is going to have a very different sort of end to his story. Of course, we don't know, but a very different reception, certainly, to his coming out.
Yeah, I think the last line by Rick Monday there is really poignant, because Glenn fought a lot of demons, and we don't know whether those demons were the same demons that any person would battle, but we know that his sexuality and being comfortable and being able to talk about how he was one of those demons. And I think that if you read what Jason Collins wrote about the tremendous weight and the ability to be yourself and be open, that is a significant thing that I think gay people are looking for when they come out. And I think Glenn never had that, what we would call peace.
And do you think that the treatment and his life and how tragically it ended, do you think that in some way has motivated pro sports to kind of get a do-over with an openly gay athlete now it's Jason Collins is the first, certainly not the last?
It makes the door a little more open. It maybe put some oil in the hinges for the next guy.
And teams are doing some things proactively as well, like the You Can Play project. Tell us about that.
It started with the NHL with Brian Burke and his son Patrick, and they're
from the Maple Leafs.
Yes, Brian Burke from the Maple Leafs, and his son Brendan was an openly gay hockey player. And Brian, after his son Brendan passed away from a car accident, started this You Can Play thing. And the NHL really embraced it. And all the top players in the NHL, the stars, came out with this video which said basically, if you can play with me. You could be my teammate. And now you see more and more teams doing that. We're starting a project here in the Bay Area with all of the major sports teams talking about, and most of the big name athletes on those teams saying, hey, if you can play, you can be my teammate. And I think that's gonna go a long way, because I think sports, for the most part, has helped society in terms of racial equality and other things, in terms of acceptance. Ultimately, when you look back over time and you compare Glenn Burke to a Jason Collins, you'll say, wow, we've come a long way. We didn't come fast enough, but at least we got there. And I think that's great.
All right, Ted Griggs, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Scott.
And if you'd like more information about the You Can Play project, we'll have links on our website, kqed.org/thisweek. Well, Paul Rogers, Amy Standen, You Can Play, because the weekend is here. Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it. And that is all for tonight. I'm Scott Schaefer. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.